Well, friends, the time has come. You sent me your design questions, and I am here to answer them. Now, I have to say, you all have some lovely homes, but we're going to look at some ways that we could make them even better. This is going to be a lot of fun, so let's get right into it. Okay, so here we have the home of Tanya in Toronto. Now, I hope it is Tanya, maybe it's Tanya. As a Tara that gets called Tara, I do apologize if I have messed it up. But this is her small apartment in Toronto, and she has some questions for me about her living space. Now, she, as you can see, is a fan of mid-century modern. She's got some great mid-century modern pieces, but she wants to add another design style into the mix. She also wants to add more seating, change the rug, bring in a side table. As she's mentioned, you can see from her choice of sofa and her artwork, she does love the color green, but she would like to incorporate some other colors. So, my suggestions for Tanya. Now, this is a great starting point. You've got a nice neutral space. The parquet floor is easy to work with. You've got nice light neutral walls. The pieces of furniture you have currently are great. They're easy to work with. So I think we just need to build on what she's already started here. Okay, so first looking at this wall. So this is her existing sofa. Now, when it comes to mixing in other design styles, if you've got mid-century modern, some obvious choices are going to be, contemporary pieces, Bauhaus pieces. These are other design styles that are also very clean, very sleek. They're going to complement MCM really nicely, but we also want to bring in some tension, right? We don't want everything to feel like it's matching too much. So she has this more traditional, ornate gold mirror. I think that is an opportunity to bring in a few more traditional pieces that are going to provide some visual tension, some juxtaposition against the mid-century modern and more contemporary pieces. So, for a coffee table and end table, I am going to suggest keeping those quite sleek and contemporary. She's already got a lot of wood happening in the space. There's a lot of walnut in the furniture, of course the hardwood floors. So I think we want to break that up a little bit. So I have found this light green coffee table. I like that this ties in some of the lighter green tones that are in the artwork. Again, just a nice, light, clean, simple end table just to add some brightness. Now, a good tip, if you're looking for something a bit unique and interesting with a coffee table and you maybe do want to get away from sort of the typical wood, check out the outdoor furniture section at your furniture store or online retailers, because there can often be some really cool pieces there and they can absolutely be used indoors. So this is an outdoor coffee table and I think this would look really cool in this space. Now, the area rug. This is an opportunity to tie in more of that traditional look. So I'm going to suggest that she do sort of a Persian style rug here. Now, it doesn't have to be this one. I just picked this one for inspiration. Of course, there are tons of sources for Persian rugs. She may even want to find something that's vintage, but this again is a great way to tie in sort of a more traditional look. It's also going to be a great starting point for introducing other colors into the space. You can look at the colors in that rug, pull from that. That's really going to help you introduce other color. And so you can see I've done that in these throw pillows, and I think that these colors are going to tie in really nicely with everything else going on in the space. The piece of art over the sofa she already has, that's currently above the TV, but I'm going to suggest that she bring it over here and have it above the sofa instead. Now, looking more closely at the coffee table, the styling on the coffee table I think is going to be a great opportunity to mix some different design styles. Here's just an inspiration image. I think if you bring in some more traditional pieces, some more contemporary pieces, have a real mix of things going on there, I think that's going to add a lot of character to the space. Okay, now moving on to the opposite wall. So she mentioned that she wants more seating. I don't have the measurements of the space, but it looks like it's quite long and narrow. So I think what's probably going to make the most sense is to add that seating across from the sofa, so on the other side of the coffee table. I'm gonna suggest these Bauhaus chairs. These are Wasili chairs. These are classic Bauhaus pieces. And I like these because, again, I think the style works really nicely with the mid-century modern pieces, but it's also going to be an interesting juxtaposition against the more traditional rug. It's bringing in the polished chrome, which is a nice contrast against the gold of the floor mirror. So I just think these would be really cool and a bit edgy. These chairs, you can find different versions of these chairs at all different price points. Sometimes I've even seen them on Facebook Marketplace. They do often come in different colors as well. So depending what colors end up being in the rug, that might influence what color she decides to do for a chair like this. Another great thing about these chairs, they're quite low profile, they're quite open. So these shouldn't block the view to the TV, because the TV cabinet is going to be behind these chairs, but they shouldn't interfere if you're sitting on the couch and you're trying to watch television. Now, as far as art on this wall, I think that this would actually be a great opportunity for a little bit of a gallery wall. Here's an inspiration image that I found. Now, she's got a couple of pieces of art leaning on the floor currently. So I think incorporating those, also bringing a couple of pieces over from her dining space. I think that could be a really cool, interesting focal point in the space. And then as far as the dining space, I think everything is really working in that space. I like her furniture. I like the light fixture. I'm just finding that the art on this wall is maybe a little high. So as I mentioned, the two square pieces that were there, I think would be better served getting moved over to the gallery wall. And then I would bring in some new pieces to add to that one existing larger piece. I think just to sort of bring in some different shapes, do something that's a little more substantial on that wall so that it feels a little more anchored to the dining table. And then I think you're good to go. Now these images, I apologize if they're maybe a little low res. I'm not the most computer savvy, Photoshop savvy person around. So I'm just using an app that I had found, and for some reason it just seems to be really low res, but bear with me. Hopefully this still gets the point across. Also, any pieces that I'm suggesting as inspiration for these spaces, I'm going to have them all linked on Pinterest. So if you want more information about anything that I've put together here, I'm going to have the link to my Pinterest in the description, and that information will all be up there. Okay, so this next one is from Caro in Port Moody, BC, so another Canadian. And Caro has written to me because she would like to know how to make this area in her living room less predictable. So she does like a clean look, but she's finding this a bit flat. She does want to keep lighting by both chairs, and she said she is sentimentally attached to the large lamp, but she's wondering about a different table for it. She's willing to change the wall sconce, and she also mentioned that she would like to use as much as she can of what she already has and keep to a budget. So very fair, I can completely understand that. Now, I also really do like that larger table lamp that you have. I think that's a great piece, so I can totally understand why you would be attached to that. I do think that you should maybe swap out the wall sconce. I think having two white drum shades on each side of the room is not really that interesting, and that's maybe why it's feeling a bit flat to you. So I would try swapping out that wall sconce for something that's a bit of a different shape. I like this black one. I think the black is a good idea because it's going to give it some visual weight and help to make things feel balanced, given that you've got the black happening in the lamp on the other side of the room. And it doesn't have to be this exact one. I found this from Mitzi. Mitzi has lots of great plug-in wall sconces, so they're a great source if you are looking for a wall sconce. Now, yes, I definitely agree that you need a different table underneath that lamp. It's just too small. It's not feeling balanced. It's making that lamp feel very top heavy. So I found this set of nesting tables. Now these are from Structube. So Caro might be familiar with Structube. They're a furniture store that we have here in Canada, and they're pretty budget friendly. So hopefully these would work okay for her budget. But these I like because they're a bit bigger. They're going to feel more balanced. I also like that they're round, because I just think having round tables, it's just gonna be easier to float those in front of that jog that's happening in the wall. Now, the other thing I'm going to suggest is adding a couple of pieces of art, because from what I can tell from the photos, the TV is not quite centered. Like the space between the right of the TV and the wall sconce is a smaller space than the space from the left of the TV over to the jog in the wall. So to help balance that out a little more, I would just bring a couple little pieces of art in to fill that space on the left side. And again, just sort of play up the asymmetry that's happening there. So those are the main changes I would suggest. Otherwise, a little bit of styling. You could just have a stack of books on the coffee table, maybe a couple of other little decorative objects beside the plant on that TV stand, and I think then you're good to go. All right, this next home belongs to Johnny in California, and he has owned this home for several years. He's already done a lot of work on it, and it's looking really great. It was a property he was renting out, but now it has become his full-time semi-retirement residence in the countryside. He's reached out to me because he has some questions about furniture placement in the living room. It is a small space, so he is a bit limited for options, but he's looking to start investing in some new pieces of furniture, and he wants to figure out the best layout before he starts doing that. Now, he's found that currently to have any sort of real seating arrangement, the sofa ends up being on one wall, and then additional seating ends up being on the opposite wall, which feels very spread out. Now, he's mentioned that TV is not a big priority to him. He's recently bought a projector and a projector screen. So the projector screen is going to be on this wall by the wood stove. But when he's not using the projector, he has a couple of pieces of art that are currently being framed, and he intends to hang those on that wall. He sent me some different photos of different layouts that have been in the space. I think these photos here, I think this is the layout with the most potential. I think this is what is sort of making the most sense in the space, but I think we can improve on it. Now, he also sent me some photos of some things that he's been doing in the space recently, and these look so great. He's done this gallery wall. He's hung this great painting above the sofa. I think that all looks fantastic. He also put these 3 cabinets behind the sofa to sort of act like a sofa table and pull the sofa out from the wall a little bit. And I think that that is a great idea. I actually had the same idea. I didn't end up doing that though. I've got something different in mind, so I'll show you what I've put together, but he is definitely on the right track. So my first solution I came up with was this. Now this, don't pay too much attention to sort of what the furniture looks like on this plan. Like, this is really just to show you the space. It's not really to show you specific pieces of furniture that I'm suggesting. But this would be with a rug that's about the size of what he currently has. And what I am going to suggest is on the opposite wall that he have some sort of console table, and then you can have some occasional seating, like some little ottomans that tuck in underneath. So that's just going to fill the space a little more. It's going to give you the flexibility if you need some additional seating. But when you look at a plan like this, I think you're really starting to sense how the space does feel quite divided. And I do have another suggestion that I think is going to help with that. I think what could really make a difference in this space is a larger area rug. So by going with a bigger rug, so this being an 8x10, you can see that it really helps to sort of unify the space. What it also does is it gives you the opportunity to bring in a little more seating, because I think now you can have a chair in there that's not going to just feel like it's sitting aimlessly in the middle of the room. The rug is going to help to anchor it. Now, it can't be a super large chair. It's going to have to be something fairly small scale. And I would do something that feels quite open, because you don't really want to block the whole view to the wood stove in the corner. But I think something like this, you can even probably get a small little end table to put beside it. And then I've just, for just the purposes of a rendering, I just randomly placed a couple of pieces of art above that piece of furniture just to help everyone visualize how it would look. I think that this is really just going to help sort of make use of that empty space in the middle of the room and just bring the whole room together. Now, that console on the far wall, now that we've brought another chair into the space, if having that additional seating is maybe not as important, he doesn't have to make this a console table. This could be, you know, a sideboard. This could be some sort of chest of drawers. If you'd rather use that as storage space, you could certainly use a piece of furniture like that instead of the console table. But then I also wanted to put together a plan showing how he could do this with the existing rug, because I do like the rug that he has there now. So if he wanted to keep that in the space, I definitely think he could. I think he would just layer it over a larger rug. So you could just get a really neutral 8x10 jute rug. It's going to be durable. It's going to be easy to maintain, given that it is going to cross in front of the front door. You're not going to want something that's, you know, not going to hold up with the traffic, with this being so close to the door. So I would either suggest swapping out the existing rug for one 8x10 rug that is going to be lower maintenance, or layering rugs like this is definitely another great option. But yeah, everything he's done so far looks great. He's definitely on the right track. So Johnny, keep doing what you're doing. So this next one comes from Dawn in Wisconsin, and she has written to me with a lighting question. So she's wanting to know how to light her dining table without obstructing the view, because she has a view of a lake, which is currently frozen but still beautiful. So I can completely understand why you would not want to obstruct that lovely view. Now she's going to be removing the current carriage lights as she finds them too traditional. She doesn't like the bare bulbs either. She wants something that's going to cast a warm glow down towards the table rather than reflecting light up at the windows. There is recessed lighting over there, but it's not over the table. Now she has 8-foot ceilings, and she says that it has been suggested to her that she may not want another thing hanging from the ceiling because she already has a pot rack. I'm just going to say right now, I don't agree with that. I think you're totally fine to have a suspended light fixture over your dining table. The pot rack is over in the kitchen. I think they're separate enough spaces that that is not an issue. I also want to say your place is very cute. This looks very cozy, and I'm very jealous that you live on a lake. So I have 3 different suggestions for lighting. Now I notice you've got a pendant light sitting on your dining table right now. I like the style of that, but I'm going to assume that you're not wanting to go with that fixture because it's just feeling a bit too big and heavy and would block the view too much, which I understand. So I am going to suggest just doing something that's a little smaller and will obstruct that view a little less. I like the style of this. I think it works well with the other things you've got going on in the space. It's not too bulky, so you can still see clearly out the window. And I also like that it's black. I think black is a good finish to go with, because if you do something lighter, I think it could just look really washed out. I think the black ties in nicely with the rest of what's going on in the space. But yeah, I just think doing something, doesn't have to be this exact fixture, but something like this that's just a bit shallow, not too big and bulky, is going to work okay for you. Now, I do have a couple of other suggestions. They do come with some potential drawbacks. Now, the second one is a linear LED light fixture. Now, what I like about this is that it's super minimal. So this is so sleek. It's not going to interfere with your view really at all. The drawback is it has this canopy at the top. So that's the canopy being that piece that attaches to the ceiling. Because you have 2 light outlets right now, you would probably want to try to find one that's got a canopy long enough to cover both of those light outlets. And that could be a bit of a challenge. So that's something you're going to want to consider. While I was editing, I did happen to stumble across this fixture, and this does actually install from 2 outlets. So if the sizing is right, I think this could be a great option, and I'm going to include it on the Pinterest board. Now, my last option, I really like the this light fixture, and I think style-wise, it would work really nicely for you. The drawback is it has to be installed from one central light outlet. So that means you would have to do some changes to your electrical. You would want to eliminate the 2 outlets that you have right now, patch the ceiling, and swap it to a center light fixture. So you don't necessarily want to do that. I understand if you don't. If you are considering, rewiring, then this is just a style of light I think would be quite nice. But hopefully one of these 3 options will work for you. And yes, best of luck. Thank you for your question. All right, guys, that brings us to the conclusion of the video. Now, I did get several questions. I couldn't fit them all into one video, so I'm breaking this up into 2 parts. I'll be answering the other questions in next week's video, so stay tuned for that. I would sincerely like to thank everyone who submitted a question. It was really fun getting to do this. It was so nice to get to learn a little bit more about my viewers. I really appreciate you sharing your homes with me. I hope I provided some suggestions that are helpful, and if you do actually carry any of these things out, send me photos. I would love to see the final result. To everyone else, thank you for watching. I hope we see you again at the next one, and bye for now.